Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. If you liked the video this morning, please come in and share it. Today, I'm going to highlight an NFL legend, Mr. Gale of the Chicago Bears and of the University of Kansas. So if you like the video, please come in and share it one more time. Special thanks to my producer, Mr. Jeremiah Long, for making it happen this morning here for me on 100 Yards of Football. The thing about what we're doing here at 100 Yards of Football is very special. And I'm going to bring up Jeremiah Long's name one more time. That gentleman has given me a tremendous platform to talk about, I want to say, my childhood heroes of me following this great game in my 62 years of being on this earth. To be able to talk about the Lynn Barneys, the Walter Paytons, the Lawrence Taylors, and of course, this gentleman today, Mr. Gale says, it's a tremendous blessing and honor. And I'm going to bring up Mr. Sayers because he was really maybe the first running back that was electric, that was explosive. And then his great day, December 12th, 1965, as a rookie, scoring 6 touchdowns in the game. Before I get into Mr. Sayers, everyone knows we got an outstanding individual. He played the game at a high level as part of 100 Yards of Football, Mr. Bobby Butler, who I just love to death. I love the stories that he tells about his time in the league, 2-time All-American in Florida State, drafted in the first round in the 1981 draft, 25th overall by the Atlanta Falcons. But when me and Mr. Butler talk about him playing in the league and all the great players, he mentions one player that he said that he's seen in an event, and he got nervous. And he said just the emotions just went through his heart, and his heart dropped when he met Gale Sayers. But see, Gale Sayers, I believe, team never made the playoffs in his career. He only played, I believe, 7 years. He became the youngest player ever to this day to be voted in the Hall of Fame in 1977 at the age of 34. But his rookie season, he had 22 touchdowns. He made all-pro first team with the likes of Jim Brown, Johnny Unitas, Alex Karras, Deacon Jones, Willie Davis, Jim Parker, Bob Hayes, Bob Lilly, and Mel Renfro. He did it on a team that never made the playoffs. But on that muddy day in Chicago at Wrigley Field, Gale Sayers put on the show. And even today, he's only one of 3 players that's ever scored 6 touchdowns in the game. Ernie Nevels did it in 1929 with the Chicago Cardinals, and Dub Jones did it with the Cleveland Browns. Dub Jones, the father of Burt Jones, who played at LSU and ended up playing for the Baltimore Colts. But what really sticks out in my mind is that he did against the San Francisco 49ers. Chicago ended up winning that game 61-20. He did it against a pretty good San Francisco defense that year. They had some great players in Kermit Alexander, Jimmy Johnson, Charlie Cougar, Texas A&M finest, and one of the best linebackers to play in the game, Dave Wilcox. In that day of December 12, 1965, he rushed for 113 yards. He returned a punt 89 yards. And he touched the ball overall 21 times that day and averaged almost 21 yards a play. It was so unfortunate that 2 years later he suffered a knee injury. But when you look at Gale Sayers and what he done, He put the mark on explosiveness. That's why he earned the nickname the Kansas Comet. The definition of a comet is ice and dust. The skill set that day on December 12, 1965, the agility, A+, the aloofness, A+, the balance, A+, the vision, A+, the breakaway speed, A+, the hands, A+, the versatility, A+. But if you go back and look at that tape, that Kansas Comet, how he was able to stop on a dime, cut, stop, move, explosiveness. Explosiveness. Think about this. Gale Sayers, one more time, never played on the team that made the playoffs. And we talking about him today as being the most explosive football player to ever touch the field. In his 7-year career, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, first-round pick in both the AFL and NFL at that time. And you know what that I didn't know? It's that. We know he was drafted by the Chicago Bears. Guess who drafted him in the AFL? The Kansas City Chiefs. But that day, getting back when history was made, 80-yard screen pass, 50-yard run, 21-yard run, 7-yard run, 1-yard run, and an 85-yard touchdown punt return. Every time I go to YouTube and watch that game and watch some highlights of Gale Sayers, I get goosebumps. I can understand why Brother Bobby Butler of Florida State was a norm, ecstatic, and proud to meet this gentleman, Gale Sayers. And you think about all the return specialists that's played this game, from Dante Hall, the Devin Hester, to Eric and Terry Metcalf. The explosiveness of making a long run. And you think about watching Eric Dickerson take a run 80 yards to the house. You think about O.J. Simpson, that 64-yard touchdown run against UCLA in 1967. You think about Tony Dorsett and them runs he had in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. And then when he first came in the league with the Dallas Cowboys, taking it coast to coast. And then you even think about this young man, what he did in 65. He was in the same backfield as Jimmy Brown. And even take this into history. Jim Brown clearly was the best running back at that time. In that year, in 65, when the gentleman broke the record, tied the record with 2 other players from Gale Sayers. Think about Green Bay beat Cleveland in the NFL championship game that year. And Jim Taylor, LSU, ended up being the MVP, rushing 27 times for 96 yards. And that game was played, I believe, on January the 3rd, 1966. It was the last game before the Super Bowl came into existence. But think about this. Even after that championship game, Green Bay beating Cleveland, people were still talking about what Mr. Gale Sayers did on December 12, 1965. As a rookie, 22 touchdowns. I don't think that's ever we'll see that again. But the thing I love about Gale Sayers, and even as I sit in my chair now, I want to get up and run that football. Running away from people, the breakaway speed. And also in college, he was a 2-time consensus All-American. And then when he was in college, he was on the All-American team in 1964 with the likes of Jack Snow, Fred Biletnikoff, Florida State. Kudos to Bobby Bowden, and also Mr. Bobby Butler. Dick Buckus of Illinois, Tucker Ferguson of Auburn, Floyd Little of Syracuse, Mike Garrett of USC, Lawrence Ekins of Baylor University. Out of that group, everybody knew about them. But they were saying, we know this young man right here out of Omaha, Nebraska is pretty good. But we didn't know he was like that. Our outstanding football player, they had a lot of excitement, explosiveness. Randy Moss, Garrett Sayers was before you. I'm sorry. O.J. Simpson, Garrett Sayers was before you. And see, when you look at the Chicago Bears organization, and just to show you that Mr. Sayers knew when he came in the league and had them 22 touchdowns, and he had them 6 touchdowns on December 12, 1965, he had to carry that torch of another great running back that I don't never hear no other platform, especially you HBCUs, mention the great Willie Gallimore out of Florida A&M. See, that's why Mr. Sayers was special, because he knew he had to carry that torch. And then Walter Payton came along, knew he had to carry that torch for Garrett Sayers. Boy, 3 outstanding running backs out of one organization. But this one here, he was special. He the guy that took it to another level of breaking the line of scrimmage and going coast to coast. As we say in the neighborhood, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. I'd like to thank the staff here at 100 Yards Football again, to Mr. Jeremiah Long. I'm at a great time of my life at 62 years old doing this on 100 Yards Football. Once again, I would not be nowhere without this gentleman right here. Thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Long. To the people that support 100 Yards Football, who's made us what we are today, Mr. Logan Landis, thank you. Mr. Bobby Butler, 2-time All-American, Florida State University, first-round draft pick of the Atlanta Falcons, thank you, in the 1981 draft. Thank you to Mr. Donnell Scott, North Atlanta finest. Thank you to Mr. Lufkin, Texas, Mr. Mark Bass, Mr. Mark Dimon, the greatest voice in all the entertainment. And of course, to a gentleman, I wouldn't be where I'm at, who stood with me since 2009. I got so much love with him, for him. If I had a brother, he would be at the top of my list. Out of BK, Brooklyn, New York, Mr. Ronnie Keebler. My final words about Garrett Sayers. See, when I was growing up, one of my mother's favorite entertainers was a guy by the initials of JB. I think we know you're talking about, James Brown out of Augusta, Georgia. And when I was about 4 or 5 years old, between that time, I used to get up in the morning on Saturday, and my mother had a jukebox blaster. And it was a song went like, Papa got a brand new bag. Come here, sister. Papa is in the swing. He ain't the hip about that new breed, babe. But he got no drag. He got no bag, excuse me. Papa got a brand new bag. See, when Garrett Sayers came in the National Football League, and he did that on December 12, 1965, see, Garrett Sayers showed the National Football League he got a new brag in his arsenal of scoring touchdowns in the National Football League. 39 career touchdowns, rushing, 9 receiving, 22 touchdowns in one season. Garrett Sayers got a new bag, such as the great James Brown out of Augusta, Georgia. If y'all like the video today, please come and share it one more time. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Have a wonderful, blessed President's Day here in the month of February. God bless.